In today's video, I'm going to be crushing one of the world's most powerful boars in a hydraulic press. But first, I'm going to be teaching you everything you need to know about Blue Protocol Star Resonance in this in-depth beginner's guide. My name is Braxophone, but you can call me Brax, and let's talk about Star Resonance. The first thing you'll do when you load into Blue Protocol Star Resonance is create a character and pick a class. And I'm gonna be completely honest, it does not matter which class you choose here. All of them are viable and you should go for the one that's the most fun. With that said, MMOs are constantly changing and what you will want to bring to different content depends on what the content is and who you're playing with. For example, a lower skill group of players may want to run a Verdant Oracle since they have easier to use healing abilities that can compensate for player mistakes, whereas high tier raid groups may want to use beat performers to maximize their damage output, because if the players are better, they can play more complex classes, and the team will make fewer mistakes. I'm not going to go over every single class in this video, but I will say from my experience in the beta and on the CN servers, it looks like Stormblade is the most popular class, and DPS is also played the most, meaning that they will have the longest queue times waiting for dungeons. And if you don't like the class that you start as and you want to switch later on, you can always go to the bureau and speak with Milia at the counter, where she'll give you a quest so you can change your class. Now, when progressing your class, you have a few different things to think about. Abilities and their levels, your talent tree, and your ability score. Your abilities are the hardest thing to level by far, since those are directly tied to limited materials. Every single skill that you level has two different things that you can level about it. One will increase the flat damage you deal on your skill, and one will increase the multiplier of your skill. The flat scaling increases come from spending bound Luno to level up your skills, and you'll be able to reach level 30 on all of your skills pretty quickly if you hyper invest. But getting the multiplier to level up is much slower because the class books are more limited, so spend these wisely or perish probably. Now, the talent tree is far easier to progress than your actual skill levels. It just won't be able to be maxed out at launch. This talent tree has things ranging from stat increases all the way over to passive abilities that attach themselves to your already existing skills. The most talent points you'll be able to get in this version of the game is 70, which means that you won't be able to get every single ability on your tree. This makes speccing and min-maxing your class even more important, but to relieve that pressure a little bit, you can always just reset your skill tree at literally any time. There will eventually come a time where you choose a specialization, and that specialization will drastically affect how your class plays. But like I mentioned before, you can just reset it for free and get all of your points and resources back. The best way to get talent points is by doing your class trials, as well as Irona quests every single day. And once you get to 70, you won't have to worry about it anymore. This can be quite time consuming at first, but once you're done, you're kind of just done forever. You will also keep all of your talent points for all other classes, but the other resources that are necessary to unlock extra passives or skills in that tree will be consumed by whatever other classes you have leveled. And the last thing to think about is your ability score. Your ability score is affected by talents, skill level, gear and your class's primary stats, your season emblem, and your modules. Unlike your personal stats that affect how much damage you do to enemies, ability score will affect how much damage enemies deal to you. You'll naturally gain ability score as you progress in the game, but you'll eventually have to squeeze out as much score as possible to get to the higher tier content. Because it can take so much time and commitment to invest into a class, I recommend focusing on just one class at launch and up until you hit about 16,000 ability score, where you should be able to reliably switch classes and still tackle some of the earlier master rank difficulties. When it comes to getting gear, dungeons are infinitely farmable, and they also have a ranking system where there are difficulties to them that drop higher tier gear. The master rank dungeons are what you're going to be doing later on in the game, but at first you'll just stick with the normal and the hard difficulties. Every dungeon will show what kind of gear it drops, so you should just look at the rewards for every single dungeon available and try to pick and upgrade the slots that you're missing gear from. One huge tip that not everyone knows about is that high tier world boss monsters can actually drop gear without costing any keys. You'll know what keys are later. So if you get together with a large group of players and spam kill bosses, you can get higher tier gear than what's available in dungeons early on. There's a limit of roughly 50 bosses a day for non-key drops. There are also going to be substats on gear, but they're not something you're going to have to worry about until late game. To make it easy, a thumbs up next to a stat means that it's good for your class. Gear is enhanceable for higher stats, gems are slottable for more bonuses, and even gear slots like your headpiece, chest piece, weapon slot, and more are individually refinable to make all gear pieces in those slots more powerful. As a general tip, by getting alloy shards of various levels, You can use them at the Gear Forge Artisan to craft purple tier gear for any class, with the level changing depending on the alloy shards that you use. To get these, you can dismantle excess gear you have for extra shards, or you can get them from various shops. If you do decide to multi-class in the future, this can be a pretty quick way to get some decent gear. Most of what I talked about isn't even relevant till you've played for a little bit, but it's good knowledge that most people surprisingly don't know about. But now that you know the basics, let's talk about what you should be doing basically every day and week. One of the easiest ways to level up is by doing the main story quest. The amount of main story quest you can do is limited by the server day. So if you start on day 2, you will get day 1 and 2 MSQ, but you won't be able to get to day 3 until the entire server has unlocked day 3. This basically just means that like if you start the game in like 2 to 3 weeks, you just have no blocks on your story, and if you start day 1, you're gonna have blocks on your story up until it's unlocked for everyone. But overall, you might as well knock it all out so you can start running higher level content, because the main story quests give a ton of experience. The higher level you are, the easier everything will be, and your level is tied to MSQ and dailies exclusively. For MMO vets, yes, there is also a skip button. Once you progress to a certain point in the main story, you'll unlock a quest to get a mount, which helps with traveling more quickly. And on the topic of travel, one tip that I have for you guys is to unlock the overworld travel buffs for flying and dashing. You can get these by traveling to these marked locations and following the airways. You'll also get more movement abilities as you level up, which makes the game flow much faster the higher level you get to. Other than MSQ, you also have daily challenges and tasks. Your dailies in this game don't take long at all, and they're basically just like standard MMO daily quests that have been around for years. Things like defeat a boss, or clear 2 dungeons, or mine 10 rocks. They're different in every game, but if you're playing this game every day and you're doing your dailies, you'll earn 6 million experience per day for less than 10 minutes of your time. Eventually, at max level, you can ignore the season pass ones if you want, unless you're specifically trying to progress your season pass, which I feel like a lot of people will do because, like, what else are you gonna do with dailies? There's also daily commissions you can pick up at the Bureau for some honor points, but you'll get honor points without doing those, and if you're playing a lot, you might not even need to do them. There are some dailies and weeklies that I recommend doing every day though, even at max level. Those are your daily dungeon runs for extra gear refinement and enhancement materials, your daily keys for boss and elite monsters, your bi-weekly Steinman Vault runs, and your weekly Pioneer tasks for gear pickups on weekly reset. I listened back to what I just said, and if you have not played the game, then what the f did I just say? Steinman Vaults are a super fun tower climbing mode that you can complete with friends or random players, and they have amazing rewards for progression like Imagine crafting materials. As for the weekly gear pickup, make sure to go to the counter and talk to Stella to see what Pioneer tasks you have to complete. The more Pioneer tasks you complete, the more rewards you have to choose from. You can also score some gear by partaking in events around the world, which can be found up in this menu, or if you want to accelerate things, you can also just spend money. Let's talk about what's actually worth paying for if you're gonna go premium on this game. So in Star Resonance, there are several monetization methods that can improve your progression speed, similarly to many other MMOs. For example, purchasing the Season Pass will give you more resources to use towards progression, and can be thought of as an optional sub for a free-to-play game. Similarly to the Season Pass, there is the monthly card, which will give bound red orbs every single day that you log in for 30 days. If you have the extra orbs to spend, there is a colorful orb store, which has some progression items in it, but most importantly, it has the items necessary to quickly craft high-tier imagines. Even whales will be incentivized to farm for crafting items over spending though, since the cost is quite high. For free-to-play players, there's also some good items here like the outfit gacha pulls if you want something premium, and the cheer up treats, which can give you 3 times drops per use per dungeon. The thing is, technically you don't really ever need cheer up treats if you have time to spend, and since they cost bound red orbs, it's at your discretion if you want to grab them weekly. Speaking of imagines, imagines are an extra slottable ability that gives bonus stats. Most of them are farmable, but there's a gacha for imagines as well, and that gacha is accessible to free-to-play players with very high odds to pull a gold tier imagine. There's a weekly pity that you can activate to grab one of the highest tier ones as well, but you still need to farm the proper materials to convert the imagine soul to a usable battle imagine. So basically what I'm saying is that even if you gacha everything and pulled every single possible imagine soul, you wouldn't even be able to do anything until you farmed all the materials, so it actually disincentivizes whales from pulling everything. You can also create any imagine soul by using shards obtainable through boss fights and lower rarity gacha rolls, or by dismantling souls that you don't want to keep. Overall, this system isn't perfect because it still benefits whale damage far more than free-to-plays, but free-to-play players can still collect 1 or 2 copies of the high tier ones. Overall, from what I've tested, a lot of purple tier Imagines at max copies tend to outperform some gold tier Imagines at 1 or 2 copies. And if you want to see a video that goes into detail on that, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. I'll talk about some of the better Imagines later on in the video though. The most important advice that I have for you guys about the gacha is to just not worry about it early on in the game. Your free-to-play orbs have a lot of other uses at the start, and Imagines don't really spike your power by a ton until later on in the game. So I would save your pulls until you decide what class that you want to focus on. There's also an outfit gacha, but this is some whale stuff. Like if you're not spending, you just don't want to worry about it at all. There are, however, some outfits in the cosmetic shop that free-to-play players can grab for bound red orbs. But cosmetics in this game don't provide any stat bonuses other than mugging your friends. You can grab 3 outfit gacha pulls with bound red orbs weekly from the colorful shop. If you are spending, then the Meow Luck shop is a cool place to nab some cosmetics as well. And keep in mind guys, 99% of the things in this game are dyeable, so even though these options do look pretty limited, there's actually quite a few combinations. But now that I've kind of addressed all of the monetization methods in the game, let's talk about more of the free-to-play side of things. This section is going to be very important for every single player, even if you are a whale, because everyone has access to these, and some of them do have weekly limits that you want to hit every single week. These stores that I'm about to talk about include the Friendship Shop, the Honor Shop, the Daily Rotating Mystery Shop, and the Reputation Shop. I don't know why they have this many currencies in the game, but it is what it is. The Honor Coin Shop will have some weekly items that you can grab for faster progression, but the average player may not buy out the whole shop every week. The most important items to buy are the advanced books, the highest tier reforged stones that you can use, Starforge crystals, and later on, you'll want to try and grab modules, alloy shards, and thrones. The Friendship Shop has 300 bound rose orbs per week that you can grab, and if you have extra currency, you can always grab the Homestead coin pouches for the Homestead coins, and thus housing improvements and materials. Oh right, there is housing in this game, but I'm not going to go into that in too much detail in this video. The Daily Rotating Mystery Shop has a mix of items that are worth it sometimes at a discount, but whether or not you spend currency on those items is up to you. If you manage to find any discounted exquisite material boxes, some guides will say not to get these, but I usually do get them because considering how slow free-to-play progression is, I think it's worth it. Other than that, usually advanced books and Starforge crystals on sale can be solid pickups if you have the currency to spare. One shop that I haven't mentioned yet is the Season Pass shop, and it's quite deceptive. It's not just a shop for Season Pass holders, because by doing season achievements and challenges, you can get tickets that will allow you to purchase items towards your emblem, which is a later feature that'll give you more gear score. So make sure not to miss those weeklies when they're available. There's also a shop that opens up later called the Reclaim Shop, and it's a way for players who missed out on previous daily or weekly content to catch up in an accelerated way. Make sure to be checking out these weekly shops because progression gets massively boosted by them. Now, in Star Resonance, there are also big incentives for group playing. By joining a guild early on, you can progress to the point of unlocking a guild shop, which will have progression resources that are tied to gameplay rather than any premium currency. In order to progress the guild and get guild currency, make sure you're doing guild activities. This includes doing daily quests, checking in at the guild, delivering items at guild cargo, hanging out with guild members, and participating in the guild hunt. The guild hunt in particular has great rewards and is open on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Oh, and by the way guys, I'll be creating a guild on day 1 of launch called Elysium, and we'll be looking for active players to make sure the guild can level up as quickly as possible. That means checking in daily, doing guild missions, and just completing all guild daily challenges for guild experience. To keep progression fast, I'll be kicking anyone who's inactive for over 24 hours for the first 2 weeks, and 48 hours in week 3 to make sure that we're active and progressing fast. Anyone is welcome to join, and I'd love to have you guys, and feel free to join my Discord too, to chat with guildies and get updates on guild activities. That'll all be in the description of this video. But I haven't even told you the main reason to join a guild yet. In the guild store, you can purchase up to 8 stamina potions every single week, meaning that you can get an extra 2 days of life skill progression or items to sell. It's super worth it if you're playing daily, and it'll help you get ahead by a solid level or 2 per week. But I haven't even gone over what Lifeskilling is yet, so let's go over that. Lifeskilling is basically Star Resonance equivalent of casual content, where you can do things like mine, smith, forage, craft, and more. Now, it's important to know that you don't have to do any of these. You can completely ignore them, but if you do them, you'll have an easier time with general progression. Another thing to note about Lifeskilling is that but for the good items, it'll cost stamina. You can do any life skill without using stamina for non-tradable items, which can be used for armor and weapon crafting, as well as housing. But using stamina gives you much higher experience, much more useful items for character progression, and lets you trade the items that you collect on the player-owned market. You get 400 stamina a day, and it's important to use it wisely because not all life skills are made equally. The smelting skill is useful for progressing your armor refining, which every player will want to do. Every single player can benefit from smelting no matter the class, but to get the materials for smelting, you'll want to unlock mineralogy, which is a mining skill. As another bonus, smelting can let you craft gear and weapons for Shield Knight, Heavy Guardian, Stormblade, and Wind Knight. Gemology and gem crafting can be used to create stat gems for slotting into gear, which raises your power and gear score. It's useful, but players with lots of currency can just buy them on the market board early on instead of having to train these skills. Artisanry is used for getting other crafting materials, but at a high level you can make some weapons for Verdant Oracle, Beat Performer, Ice Mage, and Marksman. There's also some great housing items here. Botany, Culinary, and Alchemy are all tied together, since Botany is used to get a lot of the resources spent on Culinary and Alchemy crafting. Culinary will let you craft high-tier food that can grant buffs, which is helpful for running high-level content. Alchemy is similar, but for potions, which are also useful for elemental damage buffs. The last life skill is Weaving, which will allow you to make dyes, which will always have value on the market, as well as crafting the remaining gear pieces for Verdant Oracle, Ice Mage, Beat Performer, and Marksman. You can also craft charms, which will give you an edge in the first bit of the game's progression, since they're one of the last obtainable gear piece types. Overall, I highly recommend focusing on smelting at the start of the game, and specifically making Mystery Metal, Radiant Stone, and Fine Forge Stones, since those will level up your gear refinements and thus your stats. Bury Mech Shards are also great once the game's been out for a bit, since you'll get to a level where they can be used to increase the chance of a successful refinement, thus saving you important resources. For skilling, a whale who chooses to buy items off the market board can speed up their progression by saving the stamina that they would have spent on something like mineralogy and mining rocks, and put it only into smelting by just buying the ores from other players on the market, which would allow them to get armor and weapon crafting for specific classes very quickly, and allow them to skip dungeon farming for a few pieces. However, I do not recommend it unless you have enough disposable income to run for president. Also, as a last note here on life skills, you unlock a life skill token every 300 stamina spent, which allows you to level up your life skill trees. I highly recommend unlocking the one skill that gives you a % chance at bonus drops, and not unlocking the one that increases gathering or production speed, at least until you get extra coins, because the former can give you more resources per stamina, and the latter does not. Speaking of the market board, a common misconception is that the best use of your life skill stamina is to spend it farming materials to immediately sell on the market board for Unbound Luno. Unbound Luno is different from Bound, as Bound Luno cannot be used on the market board for purchases, and can only be used on your character progression directly. Unbound is what allows you to get access to premium items like gacha outfits, special hairstyles, and Imagine Souls that you didn't get spending on the gacha, even as a free-to-play player. It'll be more profitable at launch of the game to sell your life skill materials, since whales will be willing to spend more to get ahead, so you'll be able to sell those materials at high prices due to the demand being much higher with lower supply. However, the money that you'll get from this daily is extremely low. For example, spending 400 daily stamina on rocks to sell to players for smithing training will net you anywhere from 40 to 50k Luno a day. To put that in perspective, one Imagine Soul costs around a million Unbound Luno, and a gacha costume or outfit costs around 4 million Unbound Luno, or 22 and 89 days of farming and selling respectively. There are things that sell for higher, but with different costs of stamina to obtain them, so the whole thing is kind of iffy to nail down. What's better than selling your life skill materials is to sell unwanted Imagine Souls that you get from defeating bosses, which will net you around 1 million Unbound Luno each. However, as a free-to-play player, the odds that you'll have a bunch of these that you can sell is pretty dang low, and there are some gold tier Imagines that just aren't super worth it, or purple tier ones that are better, but people don't really buy those, so it's sort of a what do you care about more situation. In my opinion, I think the market board should be reserved to endgame for free-to-play players once you already kind of have most of the things that you want, and you now have an excess of things to sell towards getting those cosmetics, or towards getting extra Imagine Souls. But with that said, if you want to log in daily and farm the same thing for 22 days in a row multiple times in order to get a maxed out Imagine, you can be my guest. As far as the Imagine Soul portion of this goes, I would recommend keeping most of your Imagines, at least until they're maxed out. Every day you'll only get 2 purple tier keys and 2 gold tier keys, and they cap out at 6 in your inventory, so it's important to farm for the right Imagines and make sure you're farming for them at least once every 3 days. On screen, I'm going to show some of the best imagines that you can get, but I'll go into more detail on this in my classes video that I'm going to be releasing very soon, so definitely subscribe if you want to check that out. For gold imagines, good ones to farm for DPS are Mukuchi for crits, Phantom Arachnocrab for mastery, and Celestial Flyer for haste. Tanks should be using at least one of the two Frost Ogre or Tempest Ogre, because Tempest Ogre is able to group up tons of mobs at once, and Frost Ogre does a ridiculous amount of break. For healers, the main one that you can farm for is Vinozar. I think I said that right, but it's the one that looks like it could go in your round. With that said, both tanks and healers get tons of value from Irona, and Tina is the best imagine in the game if you don't have too many equipped in your party, but those are both gacha exclusive. As a general tip, Irona fits better on tanks than any other class because tanks have more HP. Irona's ability allows you to revive the party, and it's most likely that the tank is going to be the last one standing in any group content, so it makes the most sense to give the class that's surviving the most the ability to revive everyone. Although it's kind of broken and I honestly think they should remove it. As for purple imagines, you'll find that Muku Scout is a best in slot contender for everyone for its attack buff. There's also purple imagines that give stat buffs, and if they buff your class's main stat, they're one of your best purple options. Skill type buffers are also great, like Shadow Captain. There will be more details on these in my detailed imagine video, but hopefully that gives you an idea of what to go for. There are other systems in Star Resonance that you won't get to until later, so I plan on covering those around the release time. For example, modules are pretty complex and can massively increase your power, and raids will allow you access to relic weapons. But don't worry about this for now, because they won't be available to you until you've completely forgotten about them. So now that you know virtually everything a beginner needs to know about Star Resonance, I'd say you're ready to go tackle the world. If you want to know exactly what to do on each day of Star Resonance, make sure to subscribe. I'll be covering the first few weeks of the game's progression, as well as making class guides, content guides, and more. If you want to watch the progression live and see what it looks like, feel free to go follow twitch.tv/Brax. That's where me and the community hang out. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you guys next time.